On the next day, a television program discussed the God of High School tournament with the presenters announcing that only 4 fighters remained from the preliminary round. These fighters were Mo-Ri, a practitioner of renewal Taekwondo, Mara the successor to the Moonlight Sword style, Dae-Wi a top full-contact karate practitioner and another fighter named Byun-hee, specialized in a Brazilian fighting style. The next match was set to be between Dae-Wi and Mara. We see them stroll down the street discussing who they thought would make it to the final round. Suddenly, a car pulls up in front of them and a young man got out. He walked toward them, knelt down and confessed his love for Mara, asking her if she wanted to marry him. Upon hearing this, the 3 friends were surprised and embarrassed. In the next scene, Mara is seen with her younger cousin and they are deciding on the dress she will wear for the wedding. The little girl expresses disbelief that Song Jin has decided to marry Mara, revealing that this young man is a famous fighter who works in television. Song Jin expressed his desire to let Mara and her sword shine. Meanwhile at the dojo, Mara's uncle asks Song Jin why he wants to marry Mara. He replies that he has many plans involving her and the sword. He expressed his determination to fulfill a dream that neither he nor his brother could achieve. Later, Mo-Ri was trying to decide which burger to order when he overheard a conversation in line about his friend's upcoming marriage. He decided to go to her house to ask her why she was marrying Song Jin. When she asked how he found her house, he revealed that he had asked the people who organized the tournament. Mara tried to close the door, but he held it open and questioned why she was getting married if she wasn't in love, especially at the time of the semifinals. She explained that she had to do it for the sake of the sword and the moonlight style. Afterward, she closed the door and Mo-Ri ended up falling down the stairs. However, she appeared to be sad as she did not want to get married. Next, Mo-Ri called Dae-Wi, who was working as a food delivery driver, and informed him about Mara's marriage to a television personality whom he didn't trust. Dae-Wi advised him to stop interfering in matters that didn't concern him, but Mo-Ri insisted that something didn't seem right, because Mara didn't appear happy. The day came, Mara was dressed as a bride and her uncle had memories of her not liking the same things as other girls. She preferred staying at home and cleaning, or when they walked on the street she would gaze at other girls' clothes. He would ask if she wanted him to buy her some, but she always said she didn't need them. Now it was strange that she was getting married, and even stranger that she was doing it with someone she didn't love. He went towards Song Jin and asked him to cancel his niece's wedding, stating that Mara didn't want to get married and that she was still a child. However, as he said this, Mara entered and claimed she was happy and wanted to fulfill her dream of getting married. It was clear that she had something else in mind. She mentioned that Song Jin's power would change the fate of the Moonlight Sword style. Her cousin became sad because Mara didn't usually speak in that manner. Later, we saw the cousin telling Mo-Ri about her father and the sword. He wanted to talk to Mara and make her see the reason, but security guards appeared and prevented him from reaching her because he didn't have an invitation. He tried to go over them but was thrown to the ground. In a flashback, we saw Song Jin's true intentions and we discovered that he belonged to a religious cult where everyone wore robes. In this cult, the leader instructed him to obtain the sword along with the hand that wields it. Mo-Ri was fighting with the security guards, but he couldn't use his Taekwondo techniques against them because they were too weak. Suddenly, Dae-Wi appeared and knocked the security guards aside with his shoulder, defeating them all. He told Mo-Ri that he wasn't hitting them but merely pushing them aside. Song Jin looked at his guards and was disappointed in them. Mo-Ri interrupted the wedding but Song Jin attacked him with a sword brought by a servant. However, Dae-Wi intercepted the sword with his hand, giving Mo-Ri an opportunity to speak with Mara. He told her not to marry Song Jin but she insisted on fulfilling her father's wish, which was for her to find someone very strong to inherit the sword. She had rejected all the boys who wanted to date her because they were too weak. While she was explaining this, she threw punches at Mo-Ri, who was defending himself. At this point, her uncle intervened and she accidentally hit him in the face. After this, we saw that both her uncle and her cousin did not want her to get married. Mo-Ri told her that she should do what she truly desires, and upon hearing this she had a childhood memory of her father saying the same words. It became clear that she had misunderstood her father's words as he was telling her to use whatever technique she wanted to control the sword. Remembering this, she decided and told Song Jin that she didn't want to marry him. However, Song Jin refused and said he would obtain the sword and the girl by any means necessary. He then summoned a deity similar to the one we saw emerge from the green-haired guy during the fight against Mo-Ri. As a result, the place began to collapse and Dae-Wi shouted at people to flee. Song-Jin attacked Dae-Wi with his sword and wounded Mara in the stomach due to her getting in between them. But she quickly struck him with a moonlight move and he fell unconscious. Both Mo-Ri and Dae-Wi were happy to see her back. Afterwards they were outside. Mara apologized and felt guilty for everything that happened. Song-Jin escaped in a car with his father's sword and she said she didn't care if he took it because her father's spirit was not in the sword but inside her. Afterward, she walked away laughing with her friends and both her uncle and the little girl were happy for her. Later, Dae-Wi was in the hospital while doctors tried to revive his friend, but they couldn't do anything because he had no pulse. After that he was at work and the usual guys came to taunt him. This time he didn't allow them to make fun of his friend and beat all three of them. After, we saw the semi-final of the tournament between Dae-Wi and Mara. At this moment he was filled with rage over his friend's death and the audience was shocked to see him brutally beating Mara. He wanted to continue hitting her despite her being severely injured and unconscious, so the presenter had to step in to stop him from killing her. After the fight ended, he passed by Mo-Ri and told him that they would meet in the final. Mo-Ri thought that he seemed like a different person and not his friend. 2 years ago, Dae-Wi had a memory from before his friend became ill, showing that they used to enjoy fighting every day after school. Back to the present, he was in the bathroom vomiting while thinking about his friend and the injuries he inflicted on Mara. Following this, the other semi-final fight began between Mo-Ri and Byun, who used his Brazilian fighting style. However, the fight ended quickly as Mo-Ri defeated him with a single attack that knocked him out. He displayed immense strength. The presenter then announced that the final would be between Mo-Ri and Dae-Wi, and the winner would participate in the national tournament. Later, Mo-Ri visited Mara in the hospital where she was being treated with nanomachine technology. She noticed that he was distracted and told him that he wouldn't be able to win the final against Dae-Wi that way. She mentioned that she lost because she was weak, but he said it was because she was injured from the fight. However, she expressed her concern about why Dae-Wi had acted the way he did. Later, Dae-Wi visited his friend in the hospital who was still alive but in a coma. The next day, the final day of the preliminaries arrived. The fighters were called to the ring and the match began. Mo-Jin wondered if the tiger cub would awaken, referring to Mo-Ri. The fight was evenly matched as both exchanged blows and neither had the upper hand. At this point, Dae-Wi landed a blow to Mo-Ri's mouth, causing him to spit out a lot of blood, just like Mara had been hit. Mo-Ri got up in anger and told Dae-Wi that he wouldn't forgive him for hurting their friend. He launched several kicks from his renewal Taekwondo and Dae-Wi fell into the corner. However, Mo-Ri approached and extended his hand to help him up. Dae-Wi took his hand but told him that he neither thought Mara or him as his friend. He then began using various techniques to attack Mo-Ri. We then saw Mara leaving the hospital with her uncle and cousin. She walked past Dae-Wi's friend's room and realized that he was being treated with nanotechnology. Several people were gathered there, including the tournament organizers, and a girl who was mourning her brother's death. The sister screamed at the deceased guy, urging him to get up and fight his friend Dae-Wi again, which was what he enjoyed the most. Later, a memory showed Mo-Jin telling Dae-Wi that he knew he wanted to win the tournament to help his friend. He offered a deal: if he won the semi-final and final in a very superior manner, he would cure his friend's illness using nanomachines. This was the reason why he fought with all his strength against Mara and was doing the same against Mo-Ri now. Back to the present, Dae-Wi was beating Mo-Ri mercilessly with his god stance and he fell to the ground. The presenter started counting to 10 to see if Mo-Ri could get up, but before the count reached 0, the Mo-Jin appeared and told Dae-Wi that his friend had already died. At that moment, Mo-Ri got up before the count reached 0. Later, we delve into Dae-Wi's school days where he had gained a reputation for winning all his fights, even against older students. In one instance, he found himself outnumbered by students armed with sticks, but an unexpected ally, the friend who would later mean so much to him, appeared to aid him in the battle. After their victory, they are both exhausted and lying on the ground. The friend questioned Dae-Wi about why his supposed friends hadn't come to his aid. Dae-Wi responded with a bitter truth: those he associated with weren't truly his friends. The friend offered a valuable piece of advice, urging him to place more trust in people. Returning to the present, Dae-Wi awoke from his unconscious state, grappling with the devastating news of his friend's passing. Mo-Ri initiated a brutal attack, but he defended himself ruthlessly. At this point, we learn about the scarred man's previous conversation with Dae-Wi. He revealed that the nanomachine treatment had been initiated, but regrettably, it was too late. Consequently, their contract had come to an end, leaving him free to fight as he saw fit. In the heat of the battle, Dae-Wi reflected on the folly of proclaiming that Mo-Ri and the others weren't his friends. He also recalled the words of his departed friend, the advice to trust people more echoing in his mind. Despite Mo-Ri's relentless assault, he chose not to resist. In the middle of the intense battle, Mara implored Dae-Wi to fight as he had when he faced her and handed him a letter left behind by his late friend. Mara cautioned Dae-Wi not to reveal its contents to Mo-Ri, fearing that it might affect their fight. Upon receiving the letter, Dae-Wi recollected his friend writing it before his untimely demise. The letter conveyed his happiness and encouraged him to fight for himself. Filled with newfound determination, they engaged in a fierce battle, both content as they gave their all. Finally, Mo-Ri unleashed a powerful blue dragon kick, causing Dae-Wi to tumble to the ground. The announcer declared Jin Mo-Ri the tournament's winner. Dae-Wi had another memory, this time of a fight he had won against his friend, who was overjoyed and suggested they share a smile. Back in the present, as Mo-Ri extended his hand, he realized that Mo-Ri's smile mirrored that of his departed friend. They shook hands and Mo-Ri declared them friends. Mara assisted Dae-Wi to his feet, declaring her intent to defeat him in their next match. Together, they walked away and the audience erupted in applause, celebrating their newfound friendship. Jin Mo-Ri's grandfather, named Jin Tae-Jin, finds himself deep in the forest when a group of men dressed in robes from the religious cult suddenly appears. One of them approaches the elderly man, suggesting that strong individuals should unite and join their cause, claiming that they've been bestowed with power from heaven. However, the old man refuses, asserting his right to live life on his own terms, a sentiment he often shares with his grandson. In response to this refusal, the man's expression changes, hinting that he might have used some form of power or manipulation on the elderly man. Mo-Ri lies on his bed, pondering the whereabouts of his long-lost grandfather, whom he hasn't seen since his childhood. Meanwhile, on television, the presenters announce the upcoming national tournament, which will be held in teams, starting in 2 weeks. To participate in this tournament, the top 3 fighters from each regional preliminary must form teams. In order to determine the 3rd and 4th place fighters, Mira competes against Byun-hee and easily secures the 3rd place position. Mo-Ri enthusiastically cheers for her from the audience, but both Mira and Dae-Wi feel somewhat embarrassed. The tournament organizers review detailed analyses of the teams and a sudden rule change is enacted. This change is motivated by the realization that anyone on the teams could be the key, as they all possess key-like qualities. They understand that the key is awakened when the individual's strongest emotion triggers their latent power. Additionally, they express concern about the cult's increasing audacity after the preliminaries, as they are pursuing the same objectives. Mo-Ri expresses his happiness that Mira has won, ensuring that all 3 of them can participate in the upcoming big tournament as a team. They walk down the street together and Mo-Ri is excited about the prospect of going to the tournament with his friends. However, a sudden realization strikes him: in a team competition, he won't be able to fight against his friends. Mira questions why he would want to fight against them and he responds that being the strongest is incredibly cool.
Nice.
During this conversation, Mo-Ri senses someone passing by, but the person disappears quickly, leaving him intrigued. Later, we see an elderly man who has been sent by the scarred man to spy on Mo-Ri. It becomes clear that this elderly man is a master and they summon these masters using cards. There are 6 of them in total. The elderly man used to be Mo-Jin's teacher and believes that Mo-Ri must be strong because he survived after consuming the sagi fruit. Thus, the elderly man intends to mentor him. Back to Mo-Ri's grandfather's scene, the men in robes summon a god from the sky, creating a portal through which a giant sword descends pointing towards the Jin Tae-Jin, causing massive destruction in its wake. Mira is deeply contemplating her role in the team, feeling like she's merely an extra. Later, she encounters the fight presenter while he is with his family at a store. She notices that he is blind and congratulates her on her victory in the fight. He then tells her that the real tournament is about to begin and that she needs to tap into the full power of the moonlight sword style. He emphasizes that she must invest her emotions into the sword, otherwise her strength will be in vain. Surprisingly, he reveals that he lost his sight due to the moonlight sword. As the presenter goes back to the car, he detects a foul odor which turns out to be emanating from a member of Nox. Afterwards, Dae-Wi has a conversation with Mo-Jin, who questions whether Dae-Wi still wishes to participate in the tournament, after his friend's death, implying that he doesn't have to continue fighting. He responds by stating his commitment to repaying a significant debt and his determination to win the tournament, as it's what his late friend would have wanted. He also expresses his curiosity about the hidden power behind the tournament. Referring to the god that emerged from the green-haired man during Mo-Ri's fight, this revelation captures the attention of Mo-Jin as they gaze at images of gods on the wall. Mo-Ri is dedicated to his training in an effort to gain more muscle and surprise Mira and Dae-Wi. However, his training regimen includes activities that are not very effective, such as chasing after a cat. In another instance, he assists some children in retrieving a balloon stuck in a tree. Unfortunately, the branch breaks, causing him to fall and twist his ankle. Suddenly, the elderly man seen earlier appears behind him and inserts a needle into his ankle, miraculously relieving his pain. Following this, Mo-Jin explains the concept of gods and how individuals can extract power from them, effectively using it in combat as if they were gods themselves. This transcends human understanding, and those who harness this power are known as chariok. Later, Mira and Dae-Wi pay a visit to Mo-Ri's house. When Mo-Ri questions how they found his home, Mira playfully responds with the same answer he provided when he visited her house. Upon entering Mo-Ri's residence, they are met with untidy environment. Mo-Ri explains that he used to live with his grandfather in the mountains, but relocated to the current place to attend school. The three friends exchange the knowledge they have acquired over time, discussing topics like chariok and Mo-Ri's healing abilities, as he successfully relieves Mira's sore shoulder. They recognize the need to stay vigilant, as many of the fighters in the tournament are now wielding the power of gods. The highly anticipated national tournament, featuring the country's best teams, is on the verge of commencing. In total, there are 3 fighters representing each of the 9 regions, making for a total of 27 competitors. Mira observes that the presenter for the tournament is different from the usual presenter. Just then, a disturbing revelation unfolds, as it's broadcasted on television that the previous presenter was brutally murdered in a park. The shocking news sends shockwaves through the audience and participants alike. We then catch a glimpse of the individual responsible for this heinous crime, who appears to revel in the chaos and violence he has caused. He expresses deep satisfaction at also having eliminated the green-haired guy with glasses, one of the strongest commissioners of the tournament. The presenter explains that there will be 3 fights and the team with 2 winners will move on to the next round. Mo-Ri steps up to fight first, and Mira cautions him to be careful because the opposing team might be using the power of chariok. However, he isn't fearful and shares that he has acquired a new skill. During the battle, he touches different points on his body, explaining that it will unleash his hidden power. In the audience, the elderly man takes pride in teaching him this new ability. Unfortunately, Mo-Ri couldn't move because he touched the wrong spots on his body. This allows his opponent to capitalize on the situation, delivering powerful kicks and securing victory in the first match. In the second match, Dae-Wi faces the largest member of the opposing team. The presenter points out that this fighter is the oldest in the tournament at 38 years old. Surprising the audience, says he doesn't resemble a high school student. In another scene, the person responsible for killing the presenter and the green-haired commissioner brag about how easy it was to take their lives. However, it's revealed that the green-haired man, named Q, miraculously survived despite having a sword through his lung. He summons a god which swiftly severs the assassin's arm. Back at the tournament, Dae-Wi is locked in a fierce battle against his older opponent. He manages to land multiple powerful punches on Kwang, causing worry for Kwang's team. However, Kwang's teammate reassures him not to fret as he never gives up. This triggers a flashback to Kwang's time working in construction, where fellow workers ridiculed him for his repeated failures to pass the high school entrance exam. His brother delivers a bag of books for him to study with, and they discuss Kwang's determination. Meanwhile, Jang watches from a distance and declares her determination not to become a loser like them. After losing a fencing competition, she vents her frustration by throwing her fencing sword against a wall. Kwang approaches her in inquiries about her well-being. She already knows his name as people often gossip and speak ill of him. Curious, she questions why he keeps trying when everyone mocks him for being a poor student. The older Kwang reveals that he refuses to give up, sharing that he attempted various endeavors after leaving school but ultimately gave up on all of them. He advises Jang not to give up if she truly wants to achieve something, then leaves running towards the rain. Back to the present, Dae-Wi's opponent delivers a powerful blow that sends him to the corner. Kwang expresses his strong desire to win the tournament because his dream is to help people who aspire to study but are struggling. He summons Thor's hammer with Chariot and attacks Dae-Wi, who manages to stop the attack and destroy the hammer, using the power of the blue dragon. Kwang falls to the ground and Dae-Wi is declared the winner. In another scene, the battle between Q and the assassin who attempted to kill him intensifies. Q swiftly severs the assassin's other arm, but the killer boasts that he can regenerate indefinitely. Unfazed, Q launches several cards that pierce the assassin's body, immobilizing him. As Q prepares to deliver a fatal blow, a boy and a girl arrive on the scene, both of whom are priests from the cult. The boy introduces himself as Exley and the girl as Saturn. They wield strange powers and attack Q. However, the white-haired organizer, aware that Q had removed his limiter, arrives to assist him. She sensed something's wrong and came to investigate. Back at the tournament, the final match between Mira and Jang is about to commence, and the victor will determine which team advances to the next round. Initially, both girls wield sticks in their fight, but Jang quickly realizes that Mira holds the advantage. Kwang fervently cheers for Jang, urging her to fight with unwavering determination and not to give up. Jang releases a power resembling a yellow light sword and attempts to strike Mira but skillfully evades the attack. Recalling the presenter's words in the park, Mira unleashes the full power of the moonlight sword style, delivering a powerful kick that shatters Jang's sword and secures her victory. Meanwhile, Q and the white-haired girl emerge victorious against the cult priests. However, before they can execute the priests, Exley grabs Saturn and the two of them manage to escape. Just then, the assassin's head begins to swell uncontrollably, causing an explosion that engulfs the entire apartment. Miraculously, they survive the explosion. Later, Mo-Ri and Mira celebrate their victory while Dae-Wi reflects on the moment when he struck Mira so forcefully during their fight, vowing never to repeat such an action. Jang regains consciousness and Kwang expresses his concern for her. He reassures her that it's not the end and they will have another opportunity to compete next year. The next match begins with a green-haired boy named Jean Jugok who creates a power using musical notes and fire. However, his opponent Jigeltek summons a colossal shark that mercilessly attacks Jugok, causing him to lose a significant amount of blood. In response, a girl from Jugok's team attempts to intervene and help him, but Jigeltek repeatedly kicks her while she's defenseless on the ground. Shocking both the audience and the participants, Mira wants to prevent Mo-Ri from intervening, fearing disqualification, but this time Dae-Wi steps in to confront Jigeltek. The announcer positions himself between them, and the injured boy, determined to win for the sake of his family's corporation, rises to his feet. He conjures in fire lightning, but Jigeltek effortlessly counters it and summons the 100-teeth shark that devours the boy.